Now that we have cut a section through our casework, we can begin adding additional details to it through using detail lines and detail components to make our casework look realistic. You can see that I've already began starting to put in blocking, and so I will show you how to load in those symbols through Revit. So for this whole exercise, we will be staying in the Annotate tab. So in order to load in nominal size blocking, you would go to your detail component and load family. Now from there, I'll back up. Within your U.S. Imperial Library, you will look for the folder called Detail Items. And then we are specifically wanting wood and plastic, and then common wood framing right here. Now you'll see that there are rough cut lumber and nominal cut lumber. We're going to stick with the nominal cut lumber, and specifically we want the section. So it should be a rectangle with an X through it. When you hit open, it'll give you a series of ones you can load in. I would say load in all the 1x and probably 2x just to be safe. So to do that, you can click once, hold down Shift until you find everything you'd like to select, and then hit OK. From there, it will load it into your project. I'm going to hit cancel because I already have mine preloaded in. So once you click that and it's loaded in, you can see that you have a whole series to select from right here within your properties panel. So I have been putting in 1x4s to just provide some blocking around the base cabinet. So you can see once one is put in, if I space around one point, it goes diagonally, and then if I drag out, it goes horizontally in 90 degrees. So I'm going to place one there and then use my detail line, just a thin line, to then connect the two. If you remember back to your drafting class where you created a casework section through hand drafting, that would be a fantastic example on how to add the necessary blocking. Now I'm going to put in another series of blocking using just detail lines. So I'm still in the Annotate tab. I'm going to go to Detail Line. I'm first going to change my line style to wide. And then I'm going to be working up off of the ground. I'm just putting one in now, and I can go back and adjust how far it is. So it's 2 inches there, which is good for me. And then if I go back to my detail line and change my line style to thin, I can also begin putting in my cut lumber that way as well. So there's 2 ways of doing it, and both can give you the same result. Now, I personally would like to have an adjustable shelf here, so I'm going to use my detail line to create that as well. I'm going to switch my sketch mode to rectangle and just put it somewhere in the middle. I want it to be 3/4 and then just hold it off of the front edge like so. Now, if I were to spend more time on this, I would add in some hardware, the profile of my hardware right here for the door itself. But for this example, that at least shows you how you would put in the blocking and detail lines. Now let's move on into putting in filled regions. Now we did that when we were working with our backsplash and elevation. And I have a detail line right here just to indicate that this would be structural for the countertop. So I'm going to go to my filled region. And I'm just going to stick with the diagonal crosshatch that comes with it. And I am just using a series of pick lines to create my region. You could also use a rectangle. That probably would have been the faster way of going, because we do need to create a complete shape, and hit my green check. Always remember to save your project as well. So I have the crosshatch here, and in reality, I'd like it to look like diagonal lines or something that's reminiscent of a wood grain. So I'm going to just see what's loaded in now. And wood 1 I have loaded in as a filled region, and that actually looks pretty nice. So I'm going to stick with that one. Just in case you do not have that, I will show you how to get it. So create a new edit type, duplicate, right? Call it something that you know. And then in the foreground fill pattern is how you change whatever would be showing. So wood 1 has a nice kind of slice to the wood. And if you hit OK and OK, it will add it to that detail, which is looking pretty nice. All right. Now, not saying that this is completely detailed out, but let's at least move on to dimensioning similarly to how we did with our elevation. Notice that my scale is in 1 1/2 inch equals 1 foot. That is the scale needed for the project. It's always important to change your scale to what will eventually be printed. That way you know that your dimension lines are looking how they eventually will on a sheet. So now that I have this, I'm going to go still in my Annotate tab, and I'm going to click my Aligned. And this should all be very familiar. I'm just doing a series of clicking and placing them in like so. And then now I am just doing this quicker just to show you how quickly it can be done. But really make sure to take your time, that you're getting all the necessary elements. Get that backsplash in there. I have my toe kick here. Do an overall and an overall here as well. Probably would go back in and give some thickness right there and give some thickness right there. Now, one more detail item that I would be this panel section for my toe kick. So I'm going to put that filled region in. And then I will change that to my wood 1, hit my green check, and that looks pretty good. Now, additionally, you could go back in with your leader text and say adjustable shelving. Like so. And then if I drew in some hardware and a detail line, just doing a quick job of it. Move that down so it makes more sense. I could also call out what that would be. Now that I have this one, let me spell this right. I'm actually going to drag this note out so that I am not right on top of my hardware. So definitely label at the end once everything is drawn. That way you know where to place things and how far apart to place them. Okay, and I'll actually bring that in. Again, a lot of this is just going back through and making sure that it is reading exactly how you want it to be reading. Now, depending upon where I'm cutting my casework, you may or may not see your sink. So for me, I am cutting and showing the sink, so that's why mine is visible. But if yours is not visible, it shouldn't be showing up, or you can always just hide an element as well. So that is how you create a cabinet section using a detail view in Revit.